The war in the Middle East is being fought with missiles and drones, but it is also being fought with balance sheets. Beyond the battlefield, the financial cost is mounting rapidly and spreading far beyond the region. In the heart of the Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point through which nearly 20% of the world's oil and gas flows, has effectively shut down, with maritime traffic dropping to near zero amid threats and attacks on shipping. Even before this latest escalation, defense expenditures were reaching historic highs. Studies reported global military spending hit a record $2.6 trillion in 2025. The United States remains the largest spender, with an annual defense budget approaching $1 trillion. Since October 2023, through earlier phases of this conflict, Washington has directed more than $31 billion toward military support and operations in Israel. Estimates suggest the war could cost tens of billions of dollars, potentially nearing 10% of annual economic output if the conflict persists. The seismic economic impact is clearest in the energy sector. With the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed, global oil and gas exports have halted or severely delayed. Oil prices have surged. Brent crude climbed over 15% in just days, exceeding $82 per barrel, its highest level in months. European natural gas prices have also spiked sharply, up to 80% in 2 days, and freight rates for oil and LNG have reached all-time highs. Now, Europe faces a dual shock: energy volatility led onto trade uncertainty and weak growth. On the other hand, Asia's exposure is structural. Japan and the Philippines rely on the Middle East for nearly 90% of their oil imports. China imports roughly 38% of its crude from Gulf. India around 46%. A 10% rise in oil prices can deteriorate current account balances in vulnerable Asian economies by 40 to 60 basis points. In Asia, key indices have fallen. South Korea's benchmark down more than 6%, Japan's Nikkei sliding roughly 3% as investors reassess exposure to geopolitical risk. Safe haven assets, including gold and U.S. Treasury bonds, have seen inflows as volatility rises. Currency markets have also shifted, with the dollar strengthening against major currencies, reflecting haven demand amid energy uncertainty. Insurance and shipping costs have jumped sharply, with some freight rates doubling within days. The economic shock is not confined to commodity prices. In the UAE, ongoing retaliatory strikes by Iran have damaged parts of Dubai and Abu Dhabi, including major aviation hubs. While there is no broad capital flight, movements reflect deep uncertainty among global professionals, families, and executives with ties to Gulf business centers. The economic effects extend to labor flows and remittances. The Gulf region hosts more than 24 million migrant workers, with around 31 million in the GCC alone, roughly 14 to 15% of the global migrant labor force. Migrants comprise more than 40% of the region's workforce, the highest regional share globally. South Asian workers, including hundreds of thousands from Nepal, are part of this workforce. Remittances from migrant labor represent nearly 25% of Nepal's GDP, making economic stability in the Gulf central to Nepal's economic fortunes. Any sustained slowdown in hiring, construction, or investment in Gulf economies may directly reduce these vital inflows. In a world still recovering from the pandemic and fractured supply chains, a prolonged conflict in the Middle East represents a global economic fault line under growing stress.